At Woodworkers Guild, we very commonly get questions from people who have bought older tools. They've run into some problems with them and they want some advice. And thankfully, right here in-house, our director, Sam, now you were given an old table saw, you didn't buy it, right?
Correct, yep.
So
yeah.
give us first the backstory. What's the history of the saw? What's the deal?
Okay, so the backstory is I've been directing Woodworkers Guild videos for 3 years now, and so I've taken an interest in it. And while taking an interest in it, my father-in-law is transitioning between houses at this point, and so he has given me his tools on the conditions that I have to let him use them whenever he needs to.
That seems like a good deal.
Yep, so all this stuff has been out in his shop for quite a while. I don't think he's used it for a few years now, and so I'm trying to get it all to work. And right now, the main project is a bookcase, and I'm using the table saw, but it's got the wrong blade on it, and it's been rusted solid.
And you talked to your father-in-law about this, and he thought that blade went on, was like pre-World War II, or what?
Yeah, I believe the text was, yeah, I haven't changed that one in a while.
Okay.
Yep.
So, what type of saw? What manufacturer?
It was a Sears Craftsman.
And any idea of the vintage of the saw?
I have no idea. I know that there's a manual somewhere. I just haven't dug through all the paperwork to try to find one.
And then, so you knew enough to recognize the wrong blade was on there, and the problem you ran into was?
Trying to get the arbor nut off.
And you grabbed some wrenches out of my toolbox here.
Well, it first started with something that looked like this. This is what kind of came with the Craftsman, was something thin like this. And what was happening was it was actually too thin for the bolt, and I was cutting into the bolts as I was trying to crank that arbor nut loose. So yeah, then I had asked you about it because the next thing I was going to do is take a torch to it.
Yeah, and I thought, so Sam asked about a torch, and I'm guessing it's not a good idea because somewhere on the back of that arbor there are bearings. Right. And I think if you got it hot enough to get the nut to come loose, you'd probably have an adverse effect on the bearings.
Right.
All right, so at the end of the day, I think this is a great problem because other people with older machines could run into this, so it looks like the problem solver found us.
Yeah, it was a combination. You had told me about the impact wrench, and so that you had one that you could borrow me, and I ran home on Tuesday to go try it out.
200-mile round trip to see if it would work.
Yep. And it was a combination of that and then an adjustable wrench to get a little bit more bite on the other bolt. So I had to use this guy, snaked an extension, poked my head through the wheel to turn the blade, and eventually I was able to crack that nut.
And did you have to the crescent wrench was on the inboard side of the arbor to lock that in?
Right.
So my question was going to be, you didn't have to jam wood against the teeth of the blade to lock that up?
No, so the way that it turned, there was a piece in the machine that it actually locked up against so that I could still turn it.
And the deal with an impact driver, if you can get one, an impact wrench, is that it pulses out, just like impact driver you drive screws with, you get this brr, brr, brr. So like working on a car, even if a wheel has been jacked up, but you're using an impact wrench to take the lug nuts off, it'll do it without the wheel spinning and getting away from you like it would with a lug wrench, because you're spinning it so fast, you're spinning it faster than the whole device can spin. So that's kind of why I thought, similarly on the table saw blade, that might crack it loose. So at the end of the day, the arbor nut, I'm guessing, is it salvageable? You going to be able to use it again, or did it get so torn up it's shot?
No, it's salvageable.
Oh,
yep.
I'm amazed.
Yep. I just had to clear the rust off of it, but it still works. So.
And then did the blade come loose easily enough off the arbor once?
Yep, and even the washers were still usable. It was pretty surprising once I got it off.
So the biggest struggle out of this, one was just the knuckle busting initially, but then two, snaking this up in there because there's not a lot of room under it.
Yeah, that was a beast because I could not get it right without actually having to peek through the hole in the actual tool.
Highly subjective. This is a pretty big impact wrench. This exerts 450 foot-pounds. Do you think that if you had tried a smaller, like an impact driver, do you have any guesstimate, might that have cracked it loose, or you think it took every bit of power this thing had to make that?
I'm not exactly sure because, it did the job, so I don't know if smaller would have worked or not.
Because it didn't occur to me. I've got some impact drivers in here, and part of the problem we would have run into is that a lot of those are very small hex drive.
Mm-hmm.
So how we would have stepped that up, you had to use a pretty good sized socket on there, right?
Yeah,
to get a fit.
if we would have gone with a smaller one, I would have used the exact same technique because there was no way anything could have fit in there after you got the socket on.
Yeah. So getting a small impact driver stepped up to that big a socket, I don't think we could have done it.
Yeah.
Well, good. So I'm glad it worked, and there's some potential advice for you if you ever run into a similar problem, to make sure you can get your arbor nut loose. Any other old tool advice for the folks at home?
I'm sure there's more to come. I've got a few other tools I'm working on.
All right. So more tool rejuvenation tips coming from Sam as we come across them.